Hello, welcome to the Distance Learning Playbook, Module 1. We're going to spend a few minutes exploring a portion of this text, specifically thinking about taking care of yourself. As we have found ourselves no longer crisis teaching, we have time to process, to think, to be intentional and purposeful about how we do what we do. And so, at the foundational skills of that experience of remote teaching is taking care of you. Let's explore this together. When you think about taking care of yourself, envision yourself on a trip, taking a vacation, free of worry of germs and work and tasks, and you're on an airplane. And you hear that speech every time. Please apply your own oxygen mask before you apply a mask to the person next to you. That's where we find ourselves. In this moment in time, you need to pause to get some things in place and think about how to take care of you so that you can better take care of others. For many years, we've had this balance of work and life. When you visit the school building, you know how it is that signals to yourself it's time to teach. You walk into the building, you set your mug down, right? You put your jacket on the hook, you are ready to go, you set out your materials for the day, and you're off to breakfast duty, right? It's that signal of when it starts and stops. Or perhaps then you think about that balance of that commute that tells you, oh, work is done and I can move on from this. But when we find ourselves working remotely, we have to be more intentional about what that balance looks like in our homes. And we're going to explore a little bit of those parts together. We also think about in this time how we all carry trauma within ourselves. Even as adults, we experience that trauma. We may have ACE experiences from our childhood, right? Or we continue to carry the trauma of our students in secondary trauma. So, if anything, we think about those skills of self-care that matter that we need to, if anything, model for students. What is your stress management plan, right? How do you plan to eat healthy or get regular exercise? Thinking about those things and those weekly check-ins with colleagues to keep that self-care happening and healthy practices for your social, emotional experiences and learning. And then we think a little bit about compassion, satisfaction. That's what we long for as adults and as teachers, that we have this experience of we work super hard and it is satisfying that then we feel that. But when we move to compassion fatigue and we are overworked, overexperienced, overextended, then there start to be signs that indicate that we're not in a healthy space. So knowing that difference will help us. So take a moment and think about, what is your wellness plan? What do you hope to have in place so that you can take care of yourself on a regular basis? The first layer of this experience of thinking about taking care of yourself beyond your self-care plan is analyzing your own workspace. Do you have a dedicated workspace in your home that you can also work from, right? Are your materials accessible? Are your supplies there? Is there good lighting so that when you're on a remote learning experience, whether in a live meet or in a recorded lesson, can your students see your face and things be clear to them? Do you have things familiar in your background that they then can recognize, whether it's books you're reading together or your teaching points, right? What is it that we're showing them? A teacher I talked to said that he actually enjoyed standing while he is recording his lessons or in his live meets, because that's what he's used to in his workspace. There is an avenue for that where he can record himself and see his computer from a different angle so that he sees his physical body in the same way that he would in the classroom. He said it felt more normal. So thinking about that and the ground rules that you have for those who also share your home. What signals to them that you are in a live recording or on a meet? Is the door closed? Is there a sign on the door, right? How is it that you can separate that so that they know and that you know how those things will go? So thinking about perhaps even using a trifold behind you, where you could move it if you were to record from your building at times or to be at home on certain days, right? Those things that could be carried with you or could be moved. So we think about your workspace plan. What is your dedicated space? What are the things that you need accessible to you? How will it work? Give it a try and see what happens. Think about the guidelines as far as the communication between you and the people that you live with in your home who are also working. Thirdly, we think about routines. Typically, when you work in a building, there are things that signal the stop and start of your day, which I highlighted a little bit in the introduction, right? But you need those same signals even when you work from home. So think about Mr. Rogers as our example. This will date me, but maybe you can remember, relate to this as well. In his experience, when he would start a show every time with that same song, and he would hang up his jacket and put on his sweater, and he would change his shoes from his work shoes, right, to his at home shoes, right? And then he would wrap up his day in the same way, right? How he put a bow on the end of that. So, what signals the beginning and what signals the end of your workday? The beginning is a little bit easier for us to think about. We think about do you spend a couple minutes with deep breathing and doing some yoga stretches? Do you do a quick walk around your block, right? Do you sit on your back patio and take a few minutes? Do you do some casual reading? For me, I tried this year thinking about using a gratitude journal, starting each day with a little bit of gratitude. What is the signal, whether it's with calming music or whatnot, that your workday is starting? And then what is the end of your day? Oftentimes when we work from home, those things tend to bleed together and we just keep working and working and working. So what is the end signal that you also have? Also, you think about in those routines that you need a chance for mental breaks. When you're in the building, you have those. Whether you teach elementary and there's a recess break, right? A restroom break, walking children to special, whatever. Or you teach middle school, high school, and there's the hall change where you have period between period and you have that mental break. And then your planning time and your lunchtime, right? Set those times in your schedule so you get those. As soon as a meet is done, walk away from your screen. That becomes the habit of that, right? Where can you provide those visual and mental breaks for yourself that you need? At the end of that day, do an emotional check in, celebrate something that has been successful for you for that day, right? And make a small plan for tomorrow. Think about what it is that you can do to prepare for the next day. So take a minute and think about your routine plan. What's your morning routine look like? What is it that you'll take breaks? What's your end of routine like? I would say you pick a couple things and try them. And then once you're done with those things after a couple weeks, see if it works. If it doesn't work for you, then try something else. But for your sake and for your students' sake, try something that is consistent and that you can kind of give a go before you make changes again. After routines and workspaces, we think a little bit about socialization and partners. You got to stay connected when you work remotely. So do you have opportunity to have a small coffee break, right? Where you think, oh, I'm going to chat with this person on the phone, maybe not in a video meet, but on a phone call where you have a break together and it's scheduled and it's intentional. We need to stay connected with people that we work with, but also outside of our work zone as well. And maybe it's that you enjoy the people you work with so much, they're also your socialization circle. But then think about, don't just talk about work, talk about life. So each day, set yourself a goal that you're going to have a meaningful conversation with someone outside of your home. Then think about these plans that you put in place that you want to try. Think about then having a partner who will check on those things with you. Who's your partner? What is it you need from them? When are you going to check in with them? The truth is, when we have a partner and we're accountable to someone, we're much more likely to do it. So consider that for yourself. So then after you've thought a little bit about yourself, taking care of yourself in providing a workspace, providing routine and socialization opportunities, and considering a partner, what does that mean now? What are your next steps when you think about sharing this and moving on with students, right? Your goal, connect with them. Help kids to connect with each other. Build that community in your classrooms. This may have to be a reset even at partway through the year where you think, hey, we need a little bit of community time here to get to know each other a little bit better, right? Make those connections. Make yourself accessible to students, whether it's through Google phone number, right? Emails, making phone calls, whatever it may be. Chats and such. Think about how you can support kids and get them moving, right? Be intentional about what kind of work and how you push it out. So keep them in simplified platforms with tools that they understand and can use, okay? Then we think about engaging them. If I'm going to engage kids, they need to have this same idea that I do, where they take care of themselves, where they have a workspace and a routine. Sometimes we as adults have to be the ones who provide that support and engagement. So inside the daily work and slideshows is a link with chill hop music so they can listen to that while they work. There are management mini lessons that help them think about how it is that they can take breaks. How do they find a workspace? How do they share their learning, right? What does it mean? What does it look like to show you listen on a Google Meet, right? Those type of management lessons, think about your specific classroom and your content area and what tools and habits students need to function, and then use those as your springboard of what kind of management mini lessons they may need that you need to help them realize and use. As you think about then moving from support to engagement, and you're thinking about various forms of instruction, right? Not just talking at them lots, but maybe there are online forums, maybe there are class meetings and small group signups at various times and breakout groups and whatnot. Think about what is the narrative that you're telling yourself? What is the reframe, right? I could spend all day looking at the negative things that are happening in my world, or I can choose to find the rainbows. So I'd ask you, based on those 3 words and ideas that I've just talked about, what's one takeaway that you have? What are you thinking about? Ultimately, I would say at your foundation, and you're thinking about these modules in the first 20 days, taking care of yourself will help you take care of others. I hope that you find a space to do that today, to figure out your plan and to figure out what matters most and how you can do that. It has been a gift to share this information with you, and I hope that you feel empowered and know that you are appreciated, that you are valued, and may today you find rainbows in your world, in your own narrative reframe.